Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, some of you guys will find this perhaps totally shocking. Others, maybe you've heard some of these things before. And again, we try to not make these videos 3 or 4 hours, as we know your time might be pressing. So before we move forward, just want to encourage everybody to subscribe to both channels, click the little bell, and hopefully we'll get some notifications. Always good to hear when notifications come. Sometimes it actually surprises me. And we do want to thank our patrons before we get going, and those that support us over on Ko-Fi as well. Please do check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com, learn more about us, and also medicinal foods. There are some great products there to help you detox, boost your immune system, and some things that just taste good that really are not so sinful, so to speak. There is a link on the top of every video. So we're going to look at some fun things here. Okay, we are rolling good. And what is the purpose of life according to Islam? Well, Islam says right here, we believe there's only one creator who created us, and we acknowledge him. We all know that he created us, humankind, to serve him. Yes, to serve the creator, not to serve man like the Twilight Zone Outer Limits, I think.
I know, a lot more people are starting to question this serving thing, I think.
Oh, yeah, yes. Well, we see how it is in modern society, don't we? As we see here from Christian Truth Center, you are created to serve the Creator, not the creation. Adam was created to serve the Creator, not the creation. So Islam and Christianity agree in that sense. That they both say mankind was created to serve the Creator.
I know, it gets a little bit kind of weird, shadowy.
And this is looking into Mesopotamia and Sumeria. And what do they believe? Well, they did believe in many gods and goddesses. They believed in 4 main gods and thousands of lesser gods. They believed their 4 main gods, the gods of sky, wind, foothills, and fresh water, created the world and ruled over it. Now, Sumerians thought of their gods as rich landowners who created humans to work for them. Work, serve. Rich landowners. Do we have any of those now?
I know, it sounds familiar.
No, they're not talking about Gil Bates now, guys.
Yeah, okay.
Or Soros.
I know, not him either.
Or Bezos. Or Musk. Well, maybe Musk.
Couldn't possibly be any of them. They're not gods. They just are rich landowners. Oh.
Well, yeah, and if we're talking farmland, because again, where was man put? Well, Adam was put in the garden. Mm-hmm. Bill Gates has the most farmland in the United States. Seeing that there's a picture here that's never really changed, isn't it? And if we look to what's the ultimate conclusion of the Bible? Eden restored. Well, that sounds nice. Yeah. And what happens? Well, the throne of God and of the Lamb will be in the city. Now, the big city that looks like a cube, like the Borg cube, comes down and lands on Earth. And it's so big, it would basically go from Italy to the Middle East. That's how big that mothership is. And so God is once again planting his feet on earth. And his servants are people who serve, will serve him. They will see his face. Well, if it's the source of all creation, does it have a face that you could see? And his name will be on their foreheads. Well, if we look at the Tao Te Ching, that can be named is not source. It's not the Tao. It's not the ultimate source. It's a finite being. Wait a minute. Name's going to be on their foreheads, but I thought there was the mark of the beast and the name is going to be marked. So everybody gets a mark. It's, gosh, that sounds so familiar. Let me see if I can find this.
Yeah, let's look this up and take a closer look, because it seems like a lot more people are looking at this closer and starting to come to some new understandings with when it comes to information about what's upcoming. You know, they do these branding things to herd animals, and it's really sad. I find it even sad we call them herd animals. They're animals. They have feelings, they have emotions. You know, and we treat them horribly a lot of the time. I mean, I know a lot of people are really, really good to their animals, but they still brand them. And that's what they do with herd animals.
Yeah, flocks, herds, branding, marking them, saying they're yours. And these are some animals, you might call them beasts, that have been marked. Well, every single human, according to Revelation, is going to get one of two marks. So you're either owned by one, you know, I guess, what would you call him? Is he going to be a cow herder?
Yeah, a shepherd?
Yeah, or the other.
Yeah.
And again, when you look a little bit deeper, it can be actually shocking. And, you know, there's a warning that comes with this too, because it basically does say again that that if man disobeys God, then he'll basically shut off the rain, and it'll be the same thing that's usual: plagues and famine, drought, floods. We talked about this before, Deuteronomy 32:8, when the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he divided the sons of man, he set the boundaries of the people according to the number of the sons of God, or the sons of the gods. Everything, you got to realize too, as far as in Judaism, when they copied over the Pentateuch, the original 5 books of quote-unquote Moses, it was done without putting any vowels down. So again, it was up to the priestly caste to get the translation right. And really, these are rehashes. They're all rehashes of older mythologies. And so again, sons of the gods. This is so interesting that we have this coming out. This is from Religion News Service. New book claims Jewish cosmic monotheism drew on Plato's writings. Yeah, the more you get into it, the more you realize very, very plagiaristic in many ways when we're talking about what we have in the Bible. And that Yahweh was originally one of the many lesser sons of God, or sons of the gods. Groundbreaking new book from Routledge by noted biblical scholar Russell Gamerkin proposes that the Jewish notion of a cosmic eternal God of creation first appeared in Genesis first around 270 BCE, drawing on the account of the creation of the cosmos in Plato's Timaeus. This new book builds on earlier research that argued that the 5 books of Moses were written around 270 BC in Alexandria, Egypt. You know, where they burnt the library that had all the hidden knowledge that was actually very useful and easy to follow. Utilizing various Greek sources found at the Great Library, including the writings of Plato. In Plato's Timaeus and in biblical creation accounts, cosmic monotheism and terrestrial polytheism in the primordial history. He argues that the first creation account in Genesis 1 shows systematic dependence on Plato's account of the creation of cosmos by the eternal demiurge or craftsman, Plato's cosmic deity present at the dawn of time. That the second creation account, Genesis 2:3, shows systematic parallels with Plato's account of the creation of mortal life by the offspring of the demiurge, the traditional Greek gods and goddesses living on earth. That the figure of Yahweh in Genesis was not the creator Elohim of Genesis 1, but one of the many sons of God, or sons of the gods, who dwelled on earth. That the story of the sons of God marrying beautiful daughters of men and having heroic, gigantic offspring in Genesis 6 drew directly on Plato's Critias, the sequel to Timaeus. That the subsequent corruption of this noble line and their destruction by earthquake and flood in Genesis also drew on Plato's Critias. That Yahweh was only elevated to cosmic status as the sole God worthy of worship in Exodus, Joshua, by his later identification with the Creator in Ten Commandments. Russell Gmerkin, biblical scholar and lecturer living in Portland, Oregon, has written extensively on the biblical use of Greek sources from the Great Library of Alexandria in his 2006 book, Bereshit and Genesis, Manetho and Exodus. He presented evidence that the books of Moses were written by Jewish scholars around 270 BC and the Great Library of Alexandria in Egypt using various Greek historical sources. Absolutely. And we've touched on other things. I mean, there's so much borrowing that's been going on the entire time. It's part of the control system. It is just part of the control system. We see in the Ten Commandments, you shall have no other gods before me. Again, that means that there's other ones like you. It's pretty, I mean, how could you not take that like that? Unless you're just wanting to hammer that square peg into that round hole.
There's just so much information in the Bible that people, they would prefer not to look at it, but it's there. It's there. You have to look at it. You can't just say, that's okay. It was just back then. It was just those times. No, there's so much stuff that has been borrowed from, books that are way, way older. And they've created this box to keep you in. And it's not like that. We are sovereign beings. We should be experiencing this creation, not being slaves to the Creator.
Absolutely. So again, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in the heavens above, or on the earth below, or in the waters beneath. So in other words, you don't make any representations of any beings you see flying around in the sky, coming up out of the water, or walking on the land. Why? Because it's going to give away who we are. It's going to let people know, wow, they look a lot like us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't look the way we thought they did. And pretty soon people start to piece this stuff together. And I think that's what's happening now is so many people are waking up to the systems that have been put, in the corners of our lives to keep us under control.
Yes, you shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of fathers on their children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. It's not a nice person, and it's not anything unique. It's one of a type of being of which there are obviously many. And if it's jealous and vindictive, why would you even want to pay attention to it? Unless you were terrified of it and you thought it was going to hurt you. And again, don't make representations of anything you see up in the heavens or in the seas and the oceans coming up or walking on land. No graven images. And suffer not a witch to live. Why? Because she probably has good herbal knowledge. Mm-hmm. And she'll tell you, don't take that big Pharma. There shall be no foreign god amongst you. You shall not bow down to an alien god. Hello. There shall be no foreign god amongst you. You shall not bow down to an alien god. I am the Lord your God. So again, and then we look back to the Sumerian city-states, which were often at constant war with each other. Each one of them had a patron deity, and that was the deity that basically was thought to reside in the temple and in the ziggurats that they had there, and to be like the ultimate overseer, the ultimate landowner of that particular city-state. Obviously, there's something much different. Then we see this burial inscription from the 8th century BC. And it says, Blessed be Uriyahu by Yahweh and his Asherah, for from his enemies he has saved them. 8th century BC. Yahweh, and some might say, Yahweh. Asherah? Yahweh and Asherah were viewed as the father and mother of gods. Oh, okay, so that doesn't really sound monotheistic now, does it?
No, so we just keep digging up this information. That's not it. There's tons of this stuff out there. There's a lot of it. And I think it's a really good time that we really need to open our eyes, because we're becoming more and more, the laws that they're putting into place are really ratcheting us down. Then they use our belief system to lock us down even further.
So Asherah was a major Northwest Semitic mother goddess, appearing also in Akkadian sources as Ashratu, in Hittite as Asherdu, and Ugaritic as Atharat. She was the consort of the chief deity Elohim, right? El Shaddai. And the mother of 70 other gods. In Judeo-Christian tradition, she's considered a false Canaanite deity and a major source of temptation to the Israelites. In the Book of Kings, the prophet Elijah challenged 400 prophets of Asherah at the same time that he battled 450 prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. Other biblical references to Asherah refer to a type of sacred pillar or tree that was erected next to Canaanite or Israelite altars in many places. These trees or groves were associated with sacred prostitution, or so they say, in the Canaanite fertility cult. And so it's interesting to see this, and there are texts. Over here you see Deuteronomy 33, 2 and 3. Yahweh came from Sinai. Yahweh? It came from Sinai? Is this the creator of everything? What was he doing down in Sinai? I mean, why isn't he checking up and seeing how things are on Mars and Venus, or over on other, star systems and things, if it's the creator of everything? Oh, okay, there's going to be there's going to be somebody out there, maybe he's paid by the FBI or CIA, that's going to say, dude, how can I take you seriously? The earth is flat. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know if he's being facetious, if he's had a few too many doobies, or what it is, or if he's just a bot. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of bots and there's a lot of disinfo. And I do think that the flat earth thing is most definitely, and many people have tapped into that too. It seems to be a modern day psyop. CIA, FBI, do you get a feel on that?
It is something for people to harness in another separation. So our CIA is very, very good at planting these separations between people. So, and they do put out really good information. So it's information that you look at and you're like, wow, that actually makes sense. And people start to believe in it and they hold on to it. But that's been the story all along, is making sure that people are angry with each other because of their belief system.
So Yahweh came from Sinai and shone forth from his own seer. He showed himself from Mount Paran. Yea, he came among the myriads of Kudsu. At his right hand his own Asherah. Indeed, he who loves the clans and all his holy ones on his left. And this talks about the cult of Asherah continued to exist until the end of the kingdom period. But its days were numbered, for opposition to her cult and priesthood were increasing, as may be deduced from the cult reforming measures by Asa, Jehoshaphat, Hezekiah, and Josiah. She was often still known as the Queen of Heaven. Queen of Heaven, Revelation 12 and all that. So here is a very old depiction of Yahweh and his Asherah in Sinai, Israel. That's an actual depiction. Kind of reminds me of some tribal masks and things that I've seen in dances. And again, these tribal masks, what are they doing? They're trying to depict beings. They're trying to recreate something.
That's very important, so that they recreate those who came down and showed them things and showed them supposed magic, when really it's just technology.
Yeah, and understanding how the world works. And here is a little bit more. So it's not really, ultimately, it wasn't monotheism, and we're not really talking about the creator of this universe or any universe. So we see Asherah and El. And again, for those that don't know, the Bible is divided into different sources.
Mm-hmm. Mike is the expert on this, and I do enjoy it when he brings these things up, because it's exactly what we need to know to help ourselves understand our path a little bit better, because we came here to experience a truth in ourselves, a truth in our path. So it's really important that we're very careful what sources we bring in.
And so, we have the Yahwist side, and then we have the Elohist side. So they could be called the Y and the E sources. And, you do have contradictions in the Bible, tons. And, this particular doctor is trying to explain it. And, what can you say? It's because it comes from something totally different. It's just, again, they've hammered a square peg into a round hole to serve a purpose. So, God is basically called either Yahweh or El. And also, in many places, again, it was in the plural, Elohim. So we're starting to see a little bit more of a picture that might be truer, as we see these beings that actually appeared physically to other people. Physically. They remembered seeing them. And some images were graven, thankfully, to give us an idea of, who are these beings? And so the Canaanites called her she who gives birth to the gods, and as the lady who traverses the sea, the goddess of both sea and moon. In Old Testament, she's identified with her sacred groves of trees. Again, makes me think of that grove over in California, Bohemian Grove, with all those trees and those owls. And it's just interesting. Before the time of Exodus, the deities were worshipped collectively as the Elohim. Collectively, multiple. Elohim, plural. El, simply meaning God, is also identifiable with a kind old grandfather god of Canaan, who is horned like the moon god Sin. We were talking about the moon god Sin, who was, again, Nana. We're talking about Abraham, of the Chaldees. This all ties together. And that makes sense, because when they talk about, I am the God of your forefathers, it was that particular city-state is what they're talking about. And there's depictions of him being carried around. And you see his little horns, and he's got a little axe, and maybe he's going to make a little fire.
Mm-hmm. And they're carrying him around because he's calling himself a god.
And again, what does that really mean? I mean, just some sort of ruler, or some, the whole classification's just basically beings that were not originally from here, that have more technology than humans. And this is 7 pairings of Yahweh and his Asherah in Hebrew, blessed inscriptions that we have seen. And look at these dates. I bless you by Yahweh of Teman and by his Asherah. It's 830 to 760 BC. So if the first putting together of the Old Testament, which feels right to me, in reality was more like around 250, 300 BC, this is much older. And this is showing that Yahweh wasn't thought of as one-of-a-kind creator of everything. No. He was one of a type of many other beings. I have blessed you by Yahweh of Samaria and his Asherah. Same time frame, 830 to 760. 830 to 760, and then over here, 750 to 700 BC. And by his Asherah from his enemies he saved him. So we can see, and many people will, I see it time and time again, the God Most High. Well, these these beings were always at war with each other and trying to be the top dog. But that doesn't make them the creator of a universe.
Right. These are things that it's just important in these days that we be fair with ourselves and honest when we ask ourselves questions.
Mm-hmm. I have blessed you by Yahweh of Samaria and by his Asherah, Yahweh of Timon and by his Asherah. So interesting to look at that picture when you look at the bigger picture that comes out. We see more depictions here. And they always try to hide all this stuff. Great goddess, the Holy One, mother of minor gods, 70 sons of Asherah, wet nurse of a king, official, head of a pantheon of El. This sounds very, very much like the whole system that we've inherited with the royals. Now we see, this is actually a mummy, guys. This is a mummy, and this is in Paracas. This is from Peru. Peru is just fascinating. This is on my bucket list. Who knows, we might end up moving there at some time. Look at the head. I mean, seriously, when you look at these are other beings that, yes, they are very much humanoid. Yes, their DNA might even appear to be pretty much as a type of ours because we're hybrids too. We all are. When we go back and look at Atlantis, there were many beings from all over the place, and we knew they weren't from here. And when we talk to people of Native American heritage, for instance, that still share all this stuff amongst the tribes, it's spoken plainly. They know all about these beings, that they don't always come from here. Now, we have to also take into account the fact that it depends on where we are as far as our own vibration. So we've been in 3D, we've been at the lowest point, and we're about to, and we are in many cases, people are starting to be existing in a 4D all the time, vibrational frequency. And those people can sense things. They can see shadows, they can see twinklings of lights, and know, in the case of like Cindy, she could see the discarnates that are on 4D very clearly. And I have too from times to time. When we're fully in the 4D, then all of a sudden we're going to be seeing a whole bunch of beings that have been here the whole time. We just couldn't see them, but we will be able to.
It's really important as we move through this time and we are evolving with our energies to learn about sensitivities, learn about sensory overload, because it's many times when, say, if we're even just working on someone, I'm going to pull in a whole lot of information from them. I'm going to pull in a lot of memories. I'm going to pull in a lot of other guides. I'm going to pull in a lot of higher self information. And then I have to filter through that and feel it and then translate it, which means every day I really need to take time to ground, to root, to center myself, because I get sensory overload because of all the perceptions that I do have out there. I perceive a lot and sometimes it really gets tiring, so it does take its daily effort to ground that information out. And I think everybody is getting there where they're so sensitive. A daily practice is becoming critical.
So we were talking about these Paracas skulls. And again, there's many different beings that have been on this planet. Atlantis wasn't just in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It wasn't just one little spot in the desert in the Sahara. It was all over. Atlantis was a civilization that had advanced technologies. People were able to fly. They had ships. And they talk all about these ships in the Vedas and in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the Vimanas that we've talked about. These were taken to be beings that were they're not us. And we might classify them as gods because, that's just the word that ended up being used. But they're simply just not Homo sapiens, but they are other beings, just like we are a being. And again, just more technologically advanced. And there was many different types, many different types. And we're discovering more and more of these bones, of these skulls that are not Homo sapiens. Again, the parietal bones, the plates in the skull, they don't match up. Where the spinal cord attaches does not match up, not the same location. And the DNA, in many cases, doesn't match up as well. And they've done some reconstruction, and it's pretty wild, as you could see here, what the depictions are. If she had a fancy hat on, you might not look twice. If it was a big, fluffy, fancy hat, you might not think there's anything different about this person. And it's really fascinating to see, too, because they have discovered DNA-wise stuff that they just can't conceive of. Why do we find, and we're going to jump over here, why do we find over here, this has been sitting for a while, I had this one up, but you can see over here, Lima, Peru, this is Paracas. You got to go all the way over, there we go, to the Black Sea area to find the closest DNA relatives. How does that happen? We don't find the DNA relatives spread everywhere along a route. It's a different continent. They weren't supposed to be able to travel like that, but they did. And in fact, Cindy has seen that they've had the ability to create portals and literally teleport in some instances all around the globe.
And they know how to do it. They were in a different time, different energies, different vibrations, so they could create these portals. They could teleport. In many cases, there's information that they could retrieve and do that we would just totally find absolutely insane. They could definitely move things with their mind. And I know it's a very rare occurrence when we hear that or see it, but for them, that was just natural.
So, it gets me thinking right away when I see beings that were here in the Black Sea area, specifically Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, this whole area. And then they're on the other side in the Western Hemisphere. It makes me think about a couple of things, but one of the things is the legends of the elves heading off into the West. There was a time when they left and they went to the West. Now, when we look to India, there was a being that in general you could term a goddess, but really an asura. And so the asuras were beings that were thought of in a negative light. The asuras were always battling the devas. The devas were the ones that wanted humanity to make its own decisions. The asuras came down and took over patches of land and started to rule humans directly. The asuras, to me, are beings that we would call the Anunnaki, and then their offspring after that. But there was a goddess asura named Danu. And then we also have the Tuatha De Danaan that we find all the way over in Ireland. And meanwhile, we have all these bodies of water in between all throughout Europe that have that root in their name. It's pretty interesting too. So when we think about Galadriel here and The Lord of the Rings, of course, Tolkien's wonderful series, and you see her, there's a point where she says, I have passed the test, because she gets tempted to take the ring for herself and become all powerful, just like the Dark Lord, but instead, of divine feminine, so to speak. And so she passes the test, and I will diminish and go into the West and remain Galadriel. That was interesting. Now, Tolkien did his mythology. He was well aware of all the myths and everything. And Ireland was peopled and conquered by a succession of invaders, one after another after another. And the Tuatha De Danaan definitely captivate the minds of many, many people. So the tale of the Tuatha De Danaan spans many centuries, and surprisingly, according to this author, says begins in ancient Greece, but we can, definitely trace it back to India as well. But it's fascinating stuff. We've done a whole video on that before. So if you look up Tuatha De Danaan, you can find that video. And this is a depiction of her, which this depiction really hits me because she's blue-skinned, and the blue-skinned beings tend to be thought of in a very, very benevolent light. But when Cindy was basically looking at these people, who were the Tuatha De Danaan, and here, according to Wikipedia, all we get is Danu is a Hindu primordial goddess mentioned in the Rig Veda, the mother of the Danavas. The word Danu described primeval waters, which this deity perhaps embodied. In the Rig Veda, she's identified as the mother of Vricha, a demonic serpent slain by Indra. In later Hinduism, she becomes the daughter of the god Daksha and spouse of Panchajani, and the consort of the sage Kashyapa. So interesting, again, that ties to water, for one. And here we see the name. As a word for rain or liquid, Danu is compared to Avestan Danu River. And again, names like the Don, the Danube, the Dnieper, the Dnistry. There's also a Danu River in Nepal. Very, very interesting to think about it, but there's been so many different beings on this planet, real, literal, actual beings that walk this earth and would appear to be as flesh and blood as you or I. And Celtic mother goddess, ancestral figure, matriarch, namesake of the Tuatha De Danaan, source of power and nobility for her offspring, her own origin shrouded in mystery from the Celtic side, but not when you go into the Vedic side of things. And then this person comes up with tribe of the gods, Tuatha De Anunnaki. And, so Cindy was feeling out and seeing what the guides would share with this.
Well, the only thing that they were willing to share is that these are a very stern people. They're very rigid when it comes to their ways. They're also very guarded when it comes to their ways, when it comes to their information, and when it comes to their energy. So they're very protective of themselves, and I do think that is a self-preservation, and they keep everything very closely. But the thing that just kind of bothered me is they came up very cold, like in a literal sense, very cold, and I wasn't sure what to make of that. But they are very powerful people. They do have very strong energies. They can do quite a lot of things that they do keep secret, like as far as the earth, working with the earth, and alchemy, things of this nature. They're very, very good at that.
So when we look at, she was an Asura. They're basically described as power-seeking clans. So they're a clan. They're a group of people of similar origin, similar perhaps DNA, like a tribe. Not necessarily from here originally, but what categorized them as an Asura was that they seeked power, compared to the more benevolent Devas, who were all about basically teaching humans how the universe worked and how to cultivate love and peace and happiness and how to live a life in harmony with the planet. Very, very different, because, the Asuras, again, they would come in and just take over an area. Exactly what we see with the legends of the Anunnaki gods that basically, took humanity to be its slave. And that's what we see in the Quran, and that's what we have in the Bible as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, there's a lot of different energies, and we just need to take the time to go deeper to go and to learn to go within and figure these things out for ourselves and smell out the truth. The truth is very, very important. But with these beings, I the information I got is they are very, very guarded. And, I think that's so that they can remain in control instead of other beings that come here to extend themselves and teach humans their ways or teach humans different things, to be a better person. They kind of came to hold on to power.
Absolutely. And so in the Hindu point of view, the Asuras are just another classification of being that tend to have tendencies towards power and control, very similar to what we see in the leadership of this world right now. There's also the Devas, again, benevolent, teaching us things like how the universe works in reality, all about the nature of consciousness. Now, we also have the Yakshas, which were nature spirits. And, those by nature would basically be benevolent unless you were not acting benevolently to nature. The Rakshasas, which were fierce man-eating beings or demons. And Bhutas, which are ghosts, and many other. There's all these different beings, and they knew that many beings were here on this planet, but not from this planet. And they also understood the different densities. So I hope this is something you guys find interesting. I look forward to your comments. Please do share. Also, let us know, what would you like to go into in greater depth? Do leave comments, and we could go in more depth in different topics. As always, much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.